And now, the Cosmic Broadcast presents a typical online disagreement between Star Wars fans. Expectation versus reality.
Hey man, what you up to? Oh, I'm just rewatching Obi-Wan for the second time. See, the first time I watched it, it was kind of disappointing, so I really wanted to just give it a second chance and then rewatch it and see if maybe I got something else out of it. Ah, gotcha. So, what did you think on your second watch? Unfortunately, the more I watch it, the more I just keep seeing the plot holes, the bad writing, and the nostalgia baiting. Oh, well, personally, I really enjoyed it. In fact, I liked it a lot. But I guess it really does depend on what you like or don't like about Star Wars. It really is just kind of up to your personal opinion. Honestly, we should get together sometime. I would love to just hear your opinion on it and just kind of go back and forth. Yeah, man. Actually, that sounds pretty great. Thank you for understanding. Oh, no problem. I totally understand. Hey, man. What you up to? Oh, I'm just rewatching Obi-Wan for the second time. See, the first time I watched it, it was kind of disappointing, so I really wanted to just give it a second chance and then rewatch it and see if maybe I got something else out of it. Oh, well, I thought it was good. Cool. I'm genuinely happy that you enjoy it. No. You don't understand. I liked it. It was a great show. I gotcha. We may just not see eye to eye. Oh, yeah. No, I get it. It's because you're racist. No? Are you talking about Reva? I think that there's still an opportunity for her to have her own show. I just didn't think it belonged in the Obi-Wan show because even he didn't have enough time to fully flesh out his character. So I feel like having Reva was kind of a detractor to the main focus of the story, which is Obi-Wan. I'm not racist. I just think that there is a time and place for certain characters. I just think it wasn't a good fit. See, that's the problem with people like you. All you do is criticize. Why can't you just sit back and enjoy Star Wars? Honestly, I criticize certain parts of Star Wars because I genuinely love Star Wars and I want it to be the best that it can be. I mean, if you enjoy what they're putting out, then that's good on you. I'm happy that you're enjoying it. You know what? People like you are ruining Star Wars. I hope you know that.
The reason why I waited over a week to record this video is because I really wanted to make sure that I put my thoughts together and I had a very clear and concise vision for this episode. So I apologize that I wasn't able to get this out right when the last episode of Obi-Wan came out, but I really wanted to do this right. So Obi-Wan has officially concluded. We received 6 episodes, and as of right now, it is extremely divided amongst fans on whether or not it's good, or whether it's bad, or if it's just mediocre. And I'm throwing my hat into the ring to tell you guys what I thought of the series. I originally was just going to give you a review of episodes 4, 5, and 6, but after thinking about it and organizing my notes, I really think it's important to just talk about the series as a whole, because I think that there's a lot of things that need to be addressed. If you were to ask me what I thought of this season in its entirety, I would honestly say to you that I believed there were several great scenes in this show, but these great scenes were masking the major problems with the script, with the story, with the writing, with the direction, and I believe that that does not save the series at all. You've got to think, you have 20 years of time to play with this whole scenario. You've got the end of Revenge of the Sith to the beginning of A New Hope, and although Disney's been milking a lot of stories recently, I do believe that this, out of all the types of projects they could play with, this gives you the most wiggle room. Did I just say wiggle room? Wiggle room to work with. And yet, with all of this sandbox to play in, Disney basically chose the most abrasive story to write that has potential to interrupt a lot of the canon. I mean, you gotta think, playing with characters like Leia, playing with characters like Luke, and even small characters like the Inquisitors or major pieces such as Darth Vader, this all is playing with fire, because if you don't play your cards right, or if you just pay even the smallest of attention to some parts rather than you do others, this could mean terrible things for the canon in its entirety. And I know that the directors in general have said that they prioritize character and canon over everything. I still find that hard to believe because they really played fast and loose with this whole canon that we have in its entirety just to give us this show. But I'm gonna save all the doom and gloom for a little bit later. Right now, I wanna focus on the good of this season. First and foremost, I give all the props in the world to Ewan McGregor. I don't know what it took for him to come back and resume his role as Obi-Wan, but I'm so glad he did. Personally, he was the saving grace behind this series, and it would have been nothing without him. He really doesn't miss a beat. He portrays all of the emotions and expectations that we have for what Obi-Wan's thinking and feeling through this, and he portrays it beautifully. He carries that weight on his shoulders of a man who is broken, and we know he's broken because we know what happened in Revenge of the Sith, and if he, in his mind, did not train Anakin, or in his way of portraying it, if he failed him, then this is all on him. And I really believe that he's feeling that. And honestly, just to ride off of that, the casting itself was really good. Obi-Wan was great. It was amazing seeing Hayden Christensen come back as Darth Vader, and you could really see the fans embrace him, and I'm so glad he finally got to feel what it's like to be widely embraced by fans.
See this, is there anything you want the fans to know, or any last thing you want to say to them before we get to see this series tonight?
This is where the fun begins.
You've got Leia, portrayed by the child actress who played her. I believe she did exactly what she was supposed to do, and for once I didn't find a child actor to be annoying and frustrating in everything they were in. So hats off to her for doing what she did. And of course, seeing Joel Edgerton come back as Owen, and then the actress who played Beru to come back, I'm so glad they brought that back, because then you don't have to recast actors who have crazy differences compared to the original actors who played them. So yeah, casting was phenomenal. And when it comes to the story, the best part of this whole series came down to Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship. This was the driving force and the lifeblood behind this series. And based on the promotion that they were giving out before the show, this is going to be the main storyline. This is what they were going to be focusing on. And who wouldn't be excited about that? Everything they did with Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship, I thought they did extremely well. There's a lot of ways they could have screwed it up. And I know that in the pre-promotion they did leading up to the show, they were really driving home the fact that, hey, this is going to be Obi-Wan and Anakin's show. We are going to really delve into their relationship. And I believe every time they did that, you really felt it. You really felt the emotions between the two, of loss, of anger, of bitterness, of hopelessness. And then at the end, there is some form of release with Obi-Wan finally being able to close that chapter of his life.
So there's something more I wanted to elaborate on for the duel between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in the climactic finale of the series. There was a lot to love about it. Even as someone who wasn't a fan of the series, I thought it was extremely enjoyable in some aspects. But one thing that I thought was a huge problem in the showdown that was kind of a overall summary of the entire show is we were lacking a lot of the Star Wars soundtrack that we're used to. It's may sound like a nitpick to some people, but to me, it sounded very hollow not being able to hear things like Duel of the Fates, hearing things like Battle of the Heroes. And I was on YouTube while I was doing some editing, and I heard the redone score by CineVore, and they basically take the Battle of the Heroes and put it into this final battle, and it makes it 10 times better. In fact, this soundtrack revamp alone makes this scene probably one of the top 10 Star Wars moments, in my opinion. It really does take that awesome scene to that next level, because you've already got the cool angle of Obi-Wan rediscovering his connection to the Force, which actually allows him to become a better duelist, kind of the Obi-Wan that we remember from the prequels. And although I had a lot of problems with the shaky cam, which if you're not familiar with that, it's basically like this, and you're trying to shoot an action scene and you're jumping around all over the place. I didn't really agree with how they decided to shoot using the shaky cam, but I still think there was a lot of redeemable qualities in this scene that to me way outpassed the negatives. So if you're able to, check out CineVore. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to that video in the description. Please check it out, because to me, that's what really takes it to that next level.
And if I'm talking about casting, talking about the story plotline, I would also say that there's one specific scene that I think saves the show entirely, and that is the scene with Obi-Wan and Vader battling for the last time before A New Hope, where ironically I had more problems with the action being shot than I did the actual dialogue. I thought the dialogue was great. That one scene where Obi-Wan slashes Anakin's mask, and then you hear the switches between Hayden Christensen's voice and James Earl Jones' voice.
Anakin's gone. I am what remains.
That was done incredible, and Ewan McGregor sells it with the emotion that he brings of feeling like he's failed him and trying to apologize, but yet Anakin is in a way, is he consoling him, or is he not letting Obi-Wan take credit for killing him? Because Anakin says, "You didn't kill Vader, I did." And that for Obi-Wan is his release to move on. And now, come to my least favorite part, it's the problems. And oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this. The script, the plot conveniences, the little bit of here and a little bit of that playing loose with the canon, I thought were all huge detriments to the show and what really tanked my enjoyment. Now, before you say anything of, oh, Jonah, you are just a prequels fan, you grew up, you're young, this is beyond your time, you need to just appreciate it for what it was. My response to that is, are we not allowed to criticize things if they don't sit well with us or when there's obvious glaring mistakes? I know that it's important to enjoy things and I don't look at things wanting to hate them. But when questions come up when I'm watching the show for the first time, and they're obvious questions that aren't nitpicks, I do want answers for them. And when there's terrible writing and there's situations where things go in a very contrived way, it's just so cheap and so lazy. The basic plot of this show is that there are characters who need to be in specific places at specific times, and the show doesn't care how you get to that point. They are purposely writing things in a very quick and cheap way so that we can get these characters where they need to be ASAP before anything else comes into play. A quick example would be we meet Haja in episode 2, and that's the Jedi impersonator. And I thought he was a really cool addition to that episode, kind of like a little one-shot appearance, makes people go, oh, hey, I know that guy. But then they bring him back in episode 4 and 5. Was it 4 and 5? Yeah, 4, 5, and 6. They bring him back, and he shows up on the base where all the other rebels are hiding out in a totally different system, and just conveniently shows up. I mean, how in the world was he able to get over there so quickly? Not to mention the fact that Obi-Wan trusts him, a guy who he's just met. Not only just met, knows that even though he has a good heart, he's still a swindler. And he gives him his lightsaber. He gives him his comlink. He gives him his important stuff that he's like, hey, hold on to this. Dude, you just met him. Give it to someone else who at least is a ranking officer in the rebellion or something. Because what does he do when he's trusted with it? He drops it. He drops the comlink, and then Reva ends up finding it, and this leads Reva straight to Luke. I mean, come on, that's literally one of the stupidest things. You can see Haja looks at it and knows he drops it and still chooses to run away. Now, that's a whole nother subject because I believe Bail Organa shouldn't be sending such a sensitive thing to Obi-Wan without Bail even thinking about deleting it or Obi-Wan deleting it. Because if you get a voicemail, you tell me, if you get a voicemail that you don't want other people to see, you're probably going to do what? You're going to read it and then you're going to delete it. Or I'm sorry, listen to it and then delete it, right? Because you don't want anyone else getting a hold of that. This is Star Wars. We're dealing with life and death situations. You don't think Obi-Wan has a delete function on his comlink? He'd be like, oh, yep, don't want anyone to know what that is. And in my personal opinion, episode 4 was the worst episode in all of the series. You know it was coming. There's always going to be one episode in every season where there's going to be something that you just really grinds your gears. This entire episode grinded my gears. You started off with Obi-Wan recovering in the bacta tank like that. I mean, shoot, it took Boba Fett, what was it, pretty much the whole season to get fully healed inside the bacta tank. And in this time, Obi-Wan, I'm assuming, only spent a little bit of time in it because there's not much time that passes between him recovering and going to save Leia. So you mean to tell me that after suffering horrible burn wounds, he's immediately like, yep, I'm good to go. Let's go do it. And you've got Ice Cube's son playing the resistance leader, basically saying, I'm not going to help you. Not at all. You're just causing a distraction. Just go somewhere else. I have nothing for you. And then literally 5 minutes later, he's like, what can I do to help? Dude, there's literally no explanation for how he switched so quickly other than the plot needs it to happen. And then Obi-Wan infiltrates the Inquisitors' base, Fortress Inquisitoris, by swimming underneath it. And their reason for not doing anything else is, oh, well, there's nobody who'd be dumb enough to try to infiltrate it. Last time I checked, that's not a great strategy to defend one of your most important fortresses in the Empire is, oh, nope, we're fine. No one's going to be dumb enough to attack. But what if someone was? And we've already seen this in Jedi Fallen Order when Cal Kestis goes and uses the same method, which happened 5 years ago, to get into the fortress. And you don't think that they experienced that and they're like, oh, yeah, no. That's never going to happen again. No, you would think that they would actually build up some defenses and prevent that from happening again. But nope, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Now that I'm thinking about the Inquisitors, let me just cover that real quick. I personally think that the Inquisitors were very much wasted in this. If you're going to bring in people like the Grand Inquisitor or the Fifth Brother, and all they do is stand around and talk, this is going to sound like a huge nitpick from me, but I mean, we barely see them even use their lightsabers, right? Like, the Fifth Brother just stands there and snarls. I mean, he's basically like,
He's just standing there, menacingly!
And to me, that just screams a wasted opportunity, because you have great actors in these roles, and you choose to just push them off to the side just to focus on one specific Inquisitor's arc being Reva, which, We'll get to that in a second. And man, the Grand Inquisitor, you know what he looks like. If you're a Star Wars fan, you know what his species specifically looks like. They're from Utapau. And you've literally seen an example of what his actual live action version of that character would look like in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. We literally see one of his same species right there. We even see it in the trailer for the new Jedi Fallen Order game, Jedi Survivor. We have templates for how he's supposed to look. And you choose to pick the worst type of look for him, where you just slap some white makeup on him, paint his head, and say, oh, good enough for me. It's acceptable when you're trying to translate a video game or animation character into live action for the first time. You literally already have the template for a movie that came out 20 years ago. That just screams lazy. And that brings me to the CGI aspect of this, is the entire show was the first Star Wars project I've ever seen where you really, really feel the budget was not what it was supposed to be. I know it was probably like, what, $20 million per episode, but hey, you're Disney. You have all the money in the world. Use it. Things like Vader stopping the ship in episode, was it 5? Yeah, episode 5. That was really cool, but you could obviously see that ship was obviously CGI. I mean, it was so clear. It looked like a PlayStation 2 cutscene. And I know that it's a TV show and TV shows have to have their budget, but when you have a specific memorable scene like that, that was really dope. I'm not taking that away from nothing. But when you make it look like it was cheaply made and hastily put together, it does in a way take you out of it and remind you, oh yeah, this is a show. I've never had that issue before with any other Star Wars projects, even Disney Star Wars. You never have that moment where it's so glaringly obvious that it's fake. Even in shows like The Mandalorian, which has a lesser budget, but yet still has these really believable environments and scenes and visual effects that makes you buy into it. And this is going to sound like a nitpick, but even going to Tatooine and seeing people interact on that planet, I've seen more humans on Tatooine in this season than I have in any other form of Star Wars media that portrays Tatooine. Where are all the aliens? Where are all the cool creatures that you normally see running all over the place? I saw pretty much 80% humans. And last time I checked, that's not how Star Wars really is. I mean, again, it goes back to you have a bunch of extras that you can just slap makeup on and throw them out there looking as they are, and you save a butt ton more money than having to craft special effects and makeup for every single one of them. Again, you have the money, Disney. And now we get to Reva. And oh boy, Reva. I gave her the benefit of the doubt for every single episode. I did not have any judgment towards her until the end of the show so that I could fully see where they were going with her character. And sure enough, the character progression that we had was exactly what most of us Star Wars fans thought was going to happen. She has several episodes where she looks like the bad guy. Then she starts to reveal her backstory, which is tragic. And then she turns good at the end, and then all of a sudden, boom, she's redeemed. We really saw this coming a mile away. And I'm not even going to say that Moses Brown portrayed her incorrectly or that Reva was a bad idea. I think it was the wrong place. I think it was the wrong time. Because when you go into an Obi-Wan Kenobi show about Obi-Wan Kenobi, there needs to be a primary focus on Obi-Wan Kenobi. And as the show started to progress, we started to hear more about Reva's backstory and her arc, and that led into her taking more screen time away from Obi-Wan. And every time it cuts to her, you want to go, no, go back. I want to see more of Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship. And that's one of the biggest problems. Let Reva have her own spin-off show. Give the Inquisitors their own spin-off show. I mean, heck, give the newly found Resistance their own origin story. I have no problem with any of these, but it doesn't belong in an Obi-Wan show that, mind you, is only 6 episodes with only, 30, 40 minutes each? That is not enough time. To be really blunt, her plan sucks. The whole plan she had from the start of working her way through the ranks of the Inquisitors to destroy Vader and get close to him, that really makes no sense when you think about it. Because in a way, she's justifying all of the horrible things she's done throughout the years. Think of the people she's had to kill, the injuries she's caused on people. I mean, shoot, even in the first episode, she cuts off that random poor lady's hand to establish herself. And then all of a sudden she wants to be redeemed at the end just because she couldn't kill one small boy? Nah, man. In my opinion, you can't expect me to immediately accept the vindication of a character unless you've given me reasons to care about her. And they make her as unlikable as possible until the last minute where they pivot and they're like, oh, no. You like her. She's good now. And even when she has the chance to take out Vader, she does it in literally the most telegraphed way possible. She tries to sneak up behind him after he's already pulled the ship down. If he was in the middle of pulling the ship down, maybe that would have been even better to sneak up behind him. She would have waited she would have been 2 seconds earlier. But she literally waits until he's done. He's had a moment to breathe, and then she sneaks up behind him, turns on her lightsaber, doesn't even try to get close to him with her lightsaber. She literally has a wind up and she's like, ah! I mean, literally any Force user would have seen that coming, let alone the Dark Lord of the Sith. And then Vader makes her look stupid, which honestly, I was really glad to see. Not because I wanted her to look stupid, but because it shows Vader is not even trying, and I love that they really show his full power. And then they do the whole back and forth of showing the flashback to the temple in Order 66 where Anakin stabs her, and then they show Darth Vader stabbing her as a grown adult. And the first thought I had was, if you get stabbed as a youngling, you're gonna die, right? I mean, this is the first situation we've seen where we've seen a youngling get stabbed by Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, and live to tell about it. It makes more sense of her getting stabbed as an adult and surviving because we've seen instances where the Sith specifically can draw upon their anger and use that to sustain their life force long enough to either get healing or to extract revenge. But when you're a youngling who's barely even tapped into the Force itself, let alone the dark side, how are you going to find that extra will to live when your spine is missing? You gotta think, that lightsaber went clean through her, so you gotta think, even if it cauterizes the wound, she's, as a little tiny girl, is gonna have this big old hole in her chest. It makes no sense to me. And we have no time to explain it because we have to go right on to the next scene. But to try to go with what this story was trying to tell, if I absolutely had to get with Reva surviving after being stabbed by Vader, it is unacceptable that she didn't even die after she finally made the right choice. I'm all for characters being vindicated. I'm all for the story of a dark side user turning over to the light. But in this situation, when she finally made that choice to do the right thing and to spare Luke and bring him back safe to Obi-Wan, Beru, and Owen, that should have been when she died. Because think about it. If her hate truly was keeping her alive and her vengeance was keeping her on her feet, the minute she let go of that, she lets go of the very thing keeping her alive. Because that's not a Jedi thing. Jedi don't normally prolong their physical lives. They usually focus on what happens after you die. They focus on becoming a Force ghost and communing with the wills of the Force. That's a whole different side of things. And that's why Qui-Gon, when he got stabbed, that's why he died so quickly, is because he was ready to go. He knew that there was life beyond what our mere bodies can sustain. But in Reva's case, she has tapped into the dark side her whole life and has been a dark side user for a long time. She should have let go of that, and she should have died. And to be honest, that would have changed a lot of my perspectives of how they did her character, and I think that would have been a very fitting way for her to end. I'm not out here with my pitchforks just going, oh, kill Reva, kill Reva. No, I am actually trying to give her character a fitting end that actually makes sense with her character, and I would have been like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And Obi-Wan is so quick to forgive her too. She's just like, have I become him? And he goes, nope, because you chose to let go. And I'm like, do you know how many people she's killed and all the things that she's done to get to where she's at? One choice to spare one child doesn't change the fact that she has spent many years committing these atrocities. Now, before you jump on and say, oh, well, Darth Vader did worse things and he still was able to be vindicated by Luke in episode 6. And I agree with you. Vader did way worse things than Reva did. But his vindication also came with his sacrifice. His ability to let go of his hate as well. After being weakened by Palpatine's lightning, he was able to die at peace. And that's the biggest thing. He let go and allowed himself to pass on. Now, even if Vader did survive, and we went through the same process we did with Reva, Vader still would have had to stand trial in the rebellion for what he did for 20, 30 plus years as Vader. He still has to stand trial. I've seen several fan fictions that explain what happens if Vader survived, and pretty much all of them do involve Vader having to stand trial and face the crime that he's committed. But in this case, Reva doesn't get any sort of slap on the wrist, no sense of, you've done a lot of terrible things. It's pretty much, oh, you feel sorry, go about your way. I mean, basically, Obi-Wan's literally like, nah, you good, have a good one, and that's it. I mean, this is gonna sound like a nitpick, but I should have mentioned this earlier. How did she get to Tatooine so quickly? All she did was find the dropped comm link, and it was the message where Bail was like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go to the boy on Tatooine who's staying with Owen. And isn't it just a coincidence that in episode 1, she actually met Owen face to face in the sea of people? Coincidence, right? And so now she knows, oh, I know who Owen is. But yet not only has she just finished a battle with Vader, she's been stabbed again. The Empire's gone. The Rebellion's gone. They've taken all of their ships. How does she get to Tatooine in like the equivalent of 10 minutes with no ship and being stabbed in the gut? And the only way you can tell she's hurt is because her hair's a little stringy and not in the perfect bun it was earlier. It boggles my mind. And the more I get into this, the more I just kind of get frustrated with all of the plot holes and the extremely contrived measures they take to get these characters from one side to another. Honestly, I have so many more problems with this show that I haven't shared yet, and I have them in my notes. But I am going to go ahead and call it audible and not continue this because I feel like the negativity is just moot at this point. I think I've raised a couple points about the laziness of the writing and the terrible creative choices, but I'm going to choose to stop that because at the end of the day, I love Star Wars. But I do think it's time to admit that this version of Star Wars that Disney's bought is not the same Star Wars that we grew up with. I know I'm a younger person to be saying something like that, but even I can say I grew up with the Lucasfilm version of Star Wars that I got to fully immerse myself in as a child. And now as a grown man, I still love Star Wars so much, but this isn't the type of Star Wars that we're used to seeing. And I think this is the status quo going forward, where it's going to probably be 1 or 2 great projects compared to 5 or 6 mediocre ones. And if that's the way we're choosing to go, so be it. Was it great seeing Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor together again? Yeah. Was it great seeing Obi-Wan rediscover his connection to the Force and start to become the Jedi Master that we all know and love? Absolutely. Was it awesome getting to see Obi-Wan recreate his Form 3 Sorisu pose right before he goes into battle, the one where he does the 2 fingers and then the lightsaber by his head? Yeah. I mean, shoot, we even got a hello there at the end of the whole season. That was so great to see.
Hello there.
And let's not just blow off the fact that Liam Neeson came back after 20 plus years of being out of the role to reprise his role as Qui-Gon for that ending scene where he appears as a Force ghost. But even with that, I mean, you're literally blowing aside the canon that has already been established that Qui-Gon Jinn did not complete his training to become a Force ghost. They mentioned it in the Clone Wars that he literally only got to the point where he was able to commune with his voice and you didn't get to see him in a physical appearance. But I guess, maybe he did figure it out. Maybe he did unlock the secret to appearing as a Force ghost. We just don't know about it. But when there's no explanation for how he got there and all we see is him showing up as a took you long enough, it's just frustrating, man. And that's why I've been so much more critical of what Disney Star Wars has been putting out, because they haven't been putting enough love and attention into these characters to really honor where they came from. They're literally just trotting them out and jangling these moments in front of us like shiny keys, like, hey, look at this, you like this, right? This happened. Look at the good stuff. And then they've got 10 to 12 different projects that they're working on that just completely fly in the face of what George Lucas created. And every moment that I sat up in my seat a little bit more in excitement during Obi-Wan, every single moment where I got excited, all came because of what came before in the prequel trilogy and in the original trilogy. Those 6 episodes are the best things that have ever happened to Star Wars. Those 6 episodes set the standard. And Disney right now is so content with just pulling things out of those and putting them into these shows that they're putting out to make us go, oh, you know what? I didn't like it, but this was cool. It's all about the almighty dollar to them. But personally, I still respect your opinion. If you enjoyed the sequel trilogy, if you enjoyed Obi-Wan, if you enjoyed all the stuff that Disney's putting out, I'm happy for you. I genuinely am. That's just me saying that I personally haven't been as invested. Side note, I still think that Rogue One is the best Disney Star Wars movie they've put out yet. As I end this video, go ahead and join me in the comments below. What did you think of the Obi-Wan show? Tell me what you enjoyed, or tell me what you didn't like about it. I'm not here to tell you what you should or should not think. I'm just here to talk some Star Wars. Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, the Force will be with you. Always.